Well, we have already seen how we can create preferences through preference screen. However, as we are now shifting to fragments, we shall today see how we can show preferences through preference fragments. So to start off the preference fragments, let me first create a simple preference screen. So I'll go to my XML file, create a new preference screen. For simplicity, I'll just add a simple text field to this, edit preference. So this is my frag pref example. So I'll simply add or edit text to this. Okay, and I'll add properties to this. I'll say Android key my edit. I can put down a title, my preferences. I can put down a summary. And values have. So what I've done is I have created a very simple preference screen that has a simple edit text preference file, and now I'll create a file to show the preference screen, add the resources from this preference screen. I'll go to my folder. I'll say pref frag example. So I'll say this. For last it was extending preference activity. Now it will extend preference fragment. So this is the difference in both approaches. We had preference activity, now we have a preference fragment. So I'll again use my on create. Here comes on create, and I will say add preferences from resource. My resource is r.xml.frag pref example. I'll just clean the project so that it takes off this file. Yeah. So what we have done, we have created a simple preference file. I have loaded the preferences from this file through a Java class, which is preference fragment example. And now I'll create a simple layout, or I'll have another activity to show this. New Java class. I'll say frag pref show. Yeah. So I'll extend activity and again have on create method on create. Within this on create, I'll simply have a fragment manager. Get fragment manager, and from the fragment manager I'll have fragment transaction. I'll just import this fragment manager, and then I have transaction, and then I can get the help. Begin transaction, and then I can say ft dot replace Android dot r dot content id dot content with new pref fragex. So what I have done is I have replaced the content of the screen with the fragment we have created for showing the preference screen, and I'll commit. So I've created an activity that would bring the fragment preference screen to the picture, and now we need to create a layout for bringing this into picture. So I'll create another activity, fragment main, and I need to create a small layout. Fragment main. So within the fragment main, I'll simply have a text field where I can show the value of the preference that has been set by the user, and I'll have a button. And let us have another button to show preferences and another to load preferences. So I'll have show fragment, and I'll put a method on click, Android on click show frag, and then we can say show values. So this will show us the values that the user has entered. Android on click show val. So in my fragment main class, I'll say extends activity, and I'll again have on create, so I'll say set content view r dot layout dot fragment main, clean the project. So I now need to write both the methods, show frag and show values. So now for the show fragment method, I need to bring my class, which is fragment pref show, into picture. So I'll create an intent I is equal to new intent this frag pref show dot class, and I'll start activity with this intent. So I got an intent to show the class which shows up the fragment activity, and into the show values method, I'll obtain a shared preferences object from preference manager dot get default shared preferences. Context is the current context, and I need to get the object of the edit text. Find view by id r dot id dot edit text 1. I hope this is what is the id edit text 1. So I'll get the value for the sp dot get string, and what is my key prefix. My key is my edit. My edit. No value entered is the default value, and I'll say et dot set text, which is A. Right. So we'll just go through the example again. So first of all, I need to create a simple preference screen. I have done that through my fragment example XML file, which I have created within the XML folder. I have a simple edit text preference within this preference screen. Then I create a preference fragment file, which takes up the preferences from this XML file. Then I have a simple activity that brings this fragment to the picture, and we have a main file which contains a text field and two buttons. Now on one button click we have showing up the fragment activity, and on the second we have to show up the values that have been set up by the user. So I'll just set up the manifest file now. I need to set up the main activity as show frag, and I have a sub activity which is another activity I have, which is show frag main. Frag pref show. Frag. So I've got both of my activities in this. I have let me see my main. My main class is frag main. Frag main. Just check up. Frag main. Our main activity is the frag main, and the second activity we have frag pref show. I'll just check up and run my program. System slow down a bit. Frag main, frag pref show. So we'll save this and we'll run our project. Run as Android app. So just see how much it is still loading. We can check up the console. Yeah. So there it comes. We can let's see the preference screen. So it comes. We can enter a value here. It is fragment. This is what I enter. Say OK. Go back to our main activity. Say show values. So this is how it all works. Instead of taking a preference activity, we can take a preference fragment, and because in further versions we are more shifting towards the fragment side. So this is how we can instead of showing a preference activity, we can shift to a preference fragment.